Israel's new government has only been sworn in for a couple of weeks. They're already taking some pretty drastic steps in response. As you can imagine, the world is absolutely up in arms, even saying that this is the end of Israeli democracy. Well, we're going to dig into all of the new actions of the government today, and you can decide for yourself. What do you think? Is it true? Is democracy actually over? Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Happy to have you with us in 2023. Guys, we have a couple of goals, and one of those goals is that we want to hit 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube this year. So if you haven't done it yet, or you're just a new watcher, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let us know if you're new watching here down in the comment section below. If you're listening, we're always on podcast platforms. You can follow us there and check out our social media sites. We do want to grow Twitter. We want to grow Instagram. All of our social media is at the Israel Guys. We would appreciate it if you would give us a subscribe and a follow wherever you find us online. So, Josh, we got some, we were talking about it, and we're saying January is usually a slow time for a lot of things in the world, but much. It's not a slow time for news in Israel or the way the world is treating Israel. So
Luke, I'm actually baffled. I'm really baffled right now. When I went on today and I was doing some quick research, and I'm seeing that everyone is up in arms about Israel's judicial reforms. I'm talking about every news network known to man. I'll take the top couple here. New York Times states, this is a quote right out of the New York Times just today, Israel has moved quickly on a wave of far-right agenda items that would weaken the judiciary. Now, why would the New York Times think it's weakening the whole judiciary system here? Well, that's their leftist policy that thinks that this is a real problem here. Now, we'll continue. New York Times continues. They released a detailed plan of a sweeping judicial overhaul that includes reducing the Supreme Court's influence over Parliament and strengthening the government's role in the appointment of judges. It continues that there's big-time problems because this also, the funding of the Palestinian Authority has been cut, as we like to call the Palestinian Mafia. Funding to the Mafia has been cut now. Woo! Right? And they also said, this is the New York Times takeaway from all of this, which I absolutely love, cherish dearly. The last statement, Luke, is priceless. Priceless. They said that effectively sounds the death rattle for long ailing hopes for a Palestinian state. The death rattle for a Palestinian state is now rattling its tune. The New York Times is going hysterical. They really do believe that this government is really dinging the bells.
I have trouble understanding how you can have a death rattle for something that's already died.
It's been already dead
for years.
It's buried.
I mean, the Biden administration is basically trying to do CPR on the Palestinian state idea or the two-state solution.
True.
But it has been dead. I mean, that's just not just us saying that. Like, the world knows it's not a thing anymore.
According to the New York Times, this is the death rattle. The reforms happening in the state of Israel now is the final stakes at blow. It's over. Right. It's done. Thank God. And I can kind of agree with them. But we're going to get into more of that in just a minute. The Times states less than 2 weeks in, it's becoming apparent that Israel's new government, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, is the most hardline, extreme right Israel has ever known. But even more disturbing is it's actively working to dismantle Israel's fragile checks and balances and to give unprecedented powers to the executive and legislative branches. This is what the Times says. Danger, democracy at stake. Why are all the leftists up in arms? Really, you got to give yourself a question. Why are the leftists going absolutely nuts? And I'm not just talking about the leftists of the world, the leftists in Israel.
Well, these are quotes abroad from American publications, and you could argue that they would actually like to see the United States move to a system that Israel has been on for years, in which they're actually trying to come out of to move to a more democratic platform. So the question is, what are these new radical, hardline, extreme right-wing policies?
Sure.
By the way, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, he said, quote, "This is the implementation of the will of the voters, and this is the essence of democracy." The essence of democracy is when voters vote for certain people and for certain policies that what they want to see happen, and then those people get into government and they enact those policies.
Yeah.
That's democracy, right? That's exactly what's happening in
Luke,
Israel.
I'm itching to get into this, but everybody wants to know what the actual policies
Yeah.
are. But hang tight. You guys got to understand we're going to get more into some of the backdrop of what's going on here and say a little bit of the, I guess we could go a little deep state on it, Luke. We're not going to go so, it's not going to be conspiracy, but it's going to be right up what's actually going on. And sometimes the realities are kind of crucial. So hang tight. We're going to get to more of the backdrop of why the left has held on to these things and why it's actually not the fall of democracy. It's the salvation of Israel's democracy that's happening right now. Don't get us wrong. So hold tight to these policies. Luke, what's the actual policies? We'll get into that later.
Okay, so some of the actual policies Israel's already enacted, and I would agree with something that the Times said. They said that it's apparent that Israel's new government, led by Netanyahu, is the most hard-leaning extreme right government. I don't agree with all that, but I do agree that this is the most right-wing government that Israel has ever had. I just want to give some bullet points, and then we'll get even into even more of the policies that Israel's working on near the end of the show. Here's a couple bullet points. They're stopping illegal Arab building in Area C of Judea and Samaria. I mean, we're talking about thousands. We gave the numbers on one of our shows recently, but it's like hundreds every week. There's about, I think, 100,000 illegal Arab buildings just in Area C of Judea and Samaria. So the government's decided we're going to stop illegal Arab buildings in Area C, Arab construction. They're going to deny benefits to VIPs who are leading the political and legal war against Israel. They're going to stop sending the PA money that they then in turn use to pay salaries to convicted terrorists. Israel already withheld a whole bunch of money. Israel collects like a lot of the revenue for the PA, their taxes, and things like that. Basically, just because they don't function well enough to collect their own taxes.
Hate to butt in, but remember, it's not a Palestinian Authority; it's the Palestinian Mafia. Mafias don't know how to collect their own money on. It's not like a nation,
Israel has to do it for them. So
Yeah.
then Israel has the right to withhold money that's going to convicted murderers and terrorists, and they've decided to actually do that. They're going to act against organizations in Judea and Samaria that promote terrorist activity. That seems pretty common sense. Basically, if you're an organization, even an NGO, and you promote terrorist activity or violence, then they're going to come against you. And here's another one, Itamar Ben-Gvir, the volatile Itamar Ben-Gvir. He's decided that members of Knesset can't visit murderers in prison anymore. If you're a convicted terrorist sitting in an Israeli prison, and you're a member of Knesset, you're not allowed to use your parliamentary immunity or diplomatic immunity to go visit those guys.
Makes sense, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, seems pretty common sense, and there's a whole lot more they're working on. We'll get to that in just a minute. But, guys, it's a new year. It's time for some New Year's resolutions. Hope you guys are making some new resolutions right now. I got an easy one for you, okay? You're not going to think it's easy. Here's a super easy one. Sign up for the Heartland Challenge. Heartland Challenge is where you pick one item that you use on a regular basis, and you commit to only purchasing that item not only from Israel. Guys, we're radical here. You have to purchase that item from Israel's heartland, Judea and Samaria. Now, I know what you're asking. You'd love to do that, right? But how in the world are you going to only purchase a certain product from Judea and Samaria? Well, guess what? Blessed by Israel, our good friends, sponsors of today's program, make it super easy for you. Blessed by Israel is a company started by extremely good friends of ours. They source incredible boutique products from small businesses in Judea and Samaria, and they ship those products straight to your doorstep. Super easy. We're talking tea, soaps, cosmetics, olive oil, chocolate, you name it, so much more. They get these products from Judea and Samaria. They do all the hard work, bringing them to the United States, and then you go online, click, order, and it gets shipped straight to your doorstep. So whatever it is, guys, pick a product that you want to use, that you use on a regular basis, use on a weekly, monthly basis, commit to only purchasing that product from Judea and Samaria, and then go to blessedbuyisrael.com, click the direct link down in the description below, and let's join the Heartland Challenge, guys. It's time to build and invest in the heartland of Israel. Join the Heartland Challenge. Start making a difference today. Find out more to go to blessedbuyisrael.com or just click that link down in the description below. And, guys, jump down there in the comments and let us know if you joined the Heartland Challenge. You can put hashtag Heartland Challenge and let us know what product you're going to buy from Israel's Heartland today.
Guys, I like how the New York Times used the word effectively. They used that word on us, actually, Luke. They said we were effectively obstructing the creation of a Palestinian state, which we love that. We think that's amazing. We don't think that this is the land of to be a Palestinian state. We think it's the one and only Jewish state that should remain a sovereign Jewish state. We know that really rattles It's a death rattle, as the New York Times would say. No, it's a life rattle. It's a life. It's a life call. Jews have one place in the world to live, and that's the state of Israel. So we're effectively creating a safe Jewish state in the land, the only land where Jews can really live and dwell safely and protect themselves. So I think it's effective. We need to keep that. What I really think is interesting, Luke, is that the leftists are also going off on a real tangent here, and they're really kicking themselves hard. They're really hurting themselves. I know the world is not going to see this, but for instance, they're saying that these reforms that Israel is making are the downfall of democracy. Well, if you want to look at the reforms that Israel's making reforms that actually put them in line with the way a nation like Canada operates. I know conservatives out there are looking at it like, yeah, we thought Canada is like falling away from a democracy, but this is kind of another discussion. Canada operates in a certain way, and the Israeli system, its parliamentary system, is very similar. And the reforms are actually going to align it more similarly to that of Canada. So,
well, and some of them even to the United States.
Yeah, very similar.
Especially the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there's some similarities to
I don't know what
States.
the Times was talking about when they said that Israel's fragile checks and balances were in danger, because Israel's actually, the judicial reforms that they're moving forward here are actually going to move Israel away from more of a, Israel was founded on a socialist mentality. And over the years, they've slowly moved away from that, but there's still some parts of Israel that are like clinging to the socialist way of things. Yeah. And they're actually trying to move, the judicial reforms are trying to move Israel further and further into a full-blown democracy. Yeah, so the socialists, meaning the left, left-run people, are thinking that this is the fall of democracy because their vision of democracy is a socialist system. And guys, thankfully, Israel's moving away from that, and they've been moving away from that for a long, long time. Other countries that they're similar to, not only that of Canada, they're also similar to that of France and also to England. So when the world says, or when the left says, Israel is at the brink of a democratic failure, Israel is no longer going to be a democracy. Well, if we're going to use that rhetoric, Canada's fallen, France has fallen, England has fallen. Actually, they never were democracies because this is the way they were all along. So they're going to have to redefine the facts that Canada, France, and England were never democracies, because this is literally the reforms that Israel is making are already what those nations do. That's how they run. They have parliamentary systems, and the system that Israel is emplacing and developing, which is way more democratic. Don't listen to the left. They have guys, I don't know if you know this, they have agendas, and they're trying to play those agendas into the political system that's happening here. Don't give it the time of day. Don't listen to the New York Times when they tell you they're effectively destroying this, the country, the death bells are ringing, and all of this rhetoric. That's not possible. It's not happening. Israel's becoming a stronger democracy. Don't listen to the left. So I want to give one good example from potential judicial reforms that Israel's enacting, and that's the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So the way it works right now is the Supreme Court of Israel has the power to overturn and veto any decisions made by Israel's parliament. In the Knesset. Yeah. Israel, they can pass laws, make decisions in their parliament. Supreme Court says, I don't like it. They veto it and they overturn it.
Luke, can I make that really simple? Unelected.
They have what is that called? They have complete power.
Complete authority over that. The unelected, Luke, are telling the elected what they can and can't do. Does that sound like a democracy?
Well, that's
you elect a group of people.
Not only
and these people are telling them what to do. That's not democracy.
Well, like you say, unelected. They're basically self-appointed. Yeah. Now, you might be told that no, they have a committee that selects Supreme Court justices. It's complicated, but the basically sitting Supreme Court justices have the power to appoint new Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other people serving on the committee, like, they don't need them. There's certain people that are completely biased to the current sitting Supreme Court justices. And the Supreme Court justices themselves, they choose new judges, and that's how they're appointed. They're not appointed by the government. They're not appointed by the prime minister. They're not elected by the people. So the Supreme Court for years, for probably decades at least, has been they've had a monopoly. The left has had a monopoly in the Supreme Court, and they can't get any different. So even though if the government's right wing, if the government's left wing, it's the same Supreme Court justices. They're liberal to the core, and they've overturned a lot of stuff, and they've enacted a lot of very liberal policies, even against the current government.
Yeah.
So there's no democracy there. And that's one of the big judicial reforms that Israel's new government is trying to move forward, is actually to change that so that there's a democratic process for the Supreme Court, and so that they can't just overturn anything they want, and so that, new justices can be chosen that actually reflect the will of the people.
The will of the people. Is that not a democracy? Luke, for the last several decades, as you mentioned, Israel has grown more conservative, more conservative, more conservative. We're talking about the people on the street, the workers, the blue collar, the people that are out there that run the country. These people are becoming more conservative. They're becoming more patriotic. They're standing up for their rights. They're saying we should be strong against terrorism. They're supporting Ben Gvir's and Bezalel Smotrich's to be a strong Israel in their own nation. Now, why has that been withheld? Really, you can go to the Supreme Court as the reason for that. And there's been a leftist hangout there that has not allowed the voice of the people, which is the overwhelming majority now. The elections just showed it. But they've been able to suppress that. They've been able to suppress that not only in the Supreme Court by laws, but they've also been able to suppress that in the media. I don't know if you guys noticed, most medias are leftist, and they're pushing that leftist agenda, and they're pushing those leftist the talking points, and they're suppressing the right. Just in the common people, the right is very strong, and they're moving forward. That has been suppressed for now several decades, and thank God now it's being overturned. The voice of the people have spoken, and the government's changing, and these reforms are going to allow the people to put the people back in charge. Literally, that's what's going to happen here. And if we can remove those stakes where they've sunk in deep, these leftist stakeholders that have not allowed the people's voice to really be allowed to make the changes that they wanted us to make, we can put that back in balance. It's not removing a Supreme Court, guys. Not at all. It's balancing that power between the parliamentary system that's in place and the Supreme Court. Balancing those out. They're still very powerful. They're still part of the Israeli government, but it's balanced. And it's a part of the democratic system, making Israel much more democratic and allowing the people, when they vote, they can vote what they want to see. And that's what's happening here. So whether people hate it or not, that's literally what's happening. With these reforms, Israel is going to be a much stronger nation, putting the nation and its destiny back into the hands of the people. That's a strong democracy, folks. Don't listen to anything else you're hearing. It's actually just literally a bunch of nonsense.
So, Josh, I want to let's go through a couple more things that Israel's new government is already working on. And then you guys, you can drop it down in the comments and let us know if you really think that this marks the end of Israel's democracy, okay? New government, strong conservative right wing. Here's a few things they've also done. An Arab Israeli citizen was just released from prison after serving 40 years for murdering an IDF officer in 1980. Okay, he was released. He goes home to his hometown, and he receives a hero's welcome. Throw him a big party. There's PLO flags. 3 Palestinian Authority officials go to the party to help welcome this, quote, hero home, right? So in response, Israel decided that these PA officials, they don't get entry permits to cross from Judea and Samaria back into Israel, because that's what they cross from Judea and Samaria into Israel, go to welcome this terrorist home, throw him a huge party, basically welcome a hero for succeeding in murdering an IDF officer 42 years ago. And so Israel said, you don't get the right to have an entry permit to go across the Green Line. One of these is actually an assistant to Mahmoud Abbas, who's the chairman of the PA, who's supposedly supposed to be Israel's partner for peace, and Biden administration's pressuring Israel to make peace with Abbas. His sidekick, or his assistant, basically.
I like it, Luke.
Well,
mafia
if
sidekick.
they're the mafia, then yeah,
it
it could be a sidekick. His assistant is welcoming this hero home, and guess what? Israel said, you don't get an entry permit. In conjunction with that, also at this party, they were obviously flying PLO flags, which there's not a ban on flying flags, but what there is a ban on is flying flags in solidarity with terrorists, which is exactly what's happening in this party. Itamar Ben-Gvir tweeted, quote, "We will fight terrorism and the encouragement of terrorism with all our might." And again, there's not a ban in flying flags, but what usually happens, they fly them in solidarity with terrorists. They fly them at parties where they're shooting guns, where they're welcoming terrorists home, at terrorist funerals, things like that. So what did Ben-Gvir do? They're not passing a new law or regulation. He just told the police, time to enforce a rule that's already in place. Right. You're not going to fly flags to incite violence and terrorism.
Luke, the next thing that he did, though, is absolutely stunningly impressive in my book. This is democracy at its finest.
Well, I think it's common sense.
I think it's common sense, and but
You
this
guys
is what
can
the world
decide.
is going nuts about. It says Ben-Gvir has the wits about him and the strength about him to say, if you want to kill us, we will deport you. You will no longer be a citizen of our country and kill us. If you want to kill us, we are going to deport you now. Terrorist, if you've killed a Jewish person, you will be, your citizenship, first you're going to jail, but your citizenship will be revoked immediately, and they might just send you out of the country. That's literally what's at stake right now. They're putting these hopefully this gets fast-tracked. I mean, that's like a no-brainer to me. And literally that one move would bring peace to this region like no other thing. I know the New York Times is going to come out with some Israel's racist government extends threats, and they're gonna be like nuts about this. But literally, if you are hard on evil terrorist factions and you say no more, we will not accept this, you will stop it. You don't answer the question with a weak, can we give you a little bit more money, whatever, can we pay you off? No, that's how mafias work. And Ben-Gvir is saying, we're not playing the mafia game anymore. You're going to jail, you're stripped of your citizenship, and you're going to end up somewhere in some horrible place without any rights, because here in Israel, this is a democratic country, and everybody's afforded rights, but not terrorists. If you want to kill us, no more rights to you, you're being kicked out.
So, member of Knesset Simcha Rothman from the Religious Zionist Party, he's chair of the Constitution, Law, and Justice Committee. He's drafting this legislation, and the legislation says, you commit a terrorist attack, you murder a Jew, you start getting a salary from the Palestinian Authority for that, and we have the right to revoke your citizenship or revoke your residency permit. He said, quote, for years we've become accustomed to having an entity, Palestinian Authority, receive funding from the state of Israel while it maintains an official price list. Murdered a Jew, here's a stipend. And if you're an Israeli citizen, you get more, depending on how many people you've killed. The bare minimum we can do as a moral country is to revoke their citizenship and residency.
Yes.
You guys can let us know. You think that marks the end of democracy?
I think it's
Let us
the
know
beginning.
what you think about, guys. Guys, we have to wrap up, but I thought this was really good news. Yuli Edelstein, who is chair of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, he met with U.S. Ambassador to Israel Thomas Nides, and he said, quote, I expressed to the ambassador my clear position regarding the need for construction in the areas of settlement in Judea and Samaria. The families there are developing, and it's impossible to put their lives on hold. Construction should continue. That's actually really good news for Judea and Samaria to actually have a government that is pro-building and pro-construction in the communities, the Jewish communities, the settlements of Judea and Samaria, because we know that the American administration, the current administration, has been very clear to Netanyahu's new government that they are aligned with a two-state solution, which we said is dead, and it is, and they're also opposed to, quote, legalizing outposts and massive settlement expansion. So this government's actually standing up and saying to America, sorry, but this is important for us, and it's necessary and important that we have the right to build and settle and live in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, Israel's biblical heartland. So, guys, the world is in an uproar about Israel's new government, claiming that their new policies and the legislation they're drafting and putting forward marks the end of democracy in Israel. We believe that the opposite is true, and that Israel is actually moving more and more into full-blown democracy. And this is what the people of Israel voted for. This is what the people of Israel actually want. They're creating proper checks and balances, holding the Supreme Court accountable. And a lot of it's similar to what we have in the United States. So anyways, guys, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to make an easy New Year's resolution. Join the fight against BDS. Sign up for the Heartland Challenge. Just go to blessedbuisrael.com or click the link down in the description below. Guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.